And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going exploring. Out in the Old West there's a bunch of prospectors. See, back about 10 years ago, a game came out called Lost Valley. Today we're looking at the new reprinted version from Pandasaurus Games with the same name, also has the Yukon Gold Rush subtitle, where now we have essentially up to 6 players, and they've done some things to streamline the game. We're going to be going out and doing the same types of things, exploring different areas, the forests, the tundras. We're going to be, looking for river gold, building mines, hunting animals, doing all sorts of things to try and get the most gold and be the winner. So let's take a look. I'll show you how it's played, and I'll see you on the other side. So we got the game set up for 4 prospectors. We're starting here at the sort of the general store. We're going to be going off these fjords and exploring an area. And here's a player board for the gray player. Everyone starts with a timber, 2 food, and 2 tools. Later on, you'll be able to add some gear here and possibly even get a cart to add more. This is where you'll be holding your gold. At the beginning of the game, I got to look at 3 different skills and choose one. And I'm the swimmer, which allows me to break a rule of the game. It's a special ability that allows me to cross a river without having a boat. I want to give you a tour of the ridiculous amount of bits that are in this game. Setup is a little crazy in this game. There's lots of little bits. Not all these will be used in every game because this is really made, all these bits are really for up to 6 players here. We're playing with 4 today, but you can see, wow, just a lot of pieces that's going on here. The most general thing you'll be doing on your turn is exploring, and at the beginning of the game you can actually cross these little fjords to here and here, but other than that you won't be crossing rivers very often without special abilities. We're going to be exploring on this side of the board. Nothing gets done on that side here. So we move and explore, and there's 3 types of tiles: river tiles, land tiles, and special triangle tiles. I'll be referring to these later. So one of the main things you do on your turn is move and explore. Now normally you can't cross rivers, but this is really the one place that you can without having a special ability or a special action. So here the first thing you do is pull, if you're next to it or near a river, you would pull out one of these river tiles. And here what you basically do, you can usually put a tile multiple different ways, but in this case we just have to make sure the river meets the river. Now after you've done the river tile, you have an option of taking one of those triangle tiles I showed you and placing it next to yourself, with the only caveat that you cannot place it if there's already a triangle tile touching that. So that one actually allows us to put 6 whiskeys here, and then on your turn for an action you can take a whiskey, which essentially gives you an extra turn, or you can turn in a food or a timber and get 2 whiskeys. So there we go. Then we put this there, and we'll put a little marker there, and then we'll pull the last tile, and this will be sort of like a mine. So once you're at a spot, essentially you got to stop moving immediately and explore all the way around it. And that's a mine where 4 mine gold will go there because the number 4 was there. Now before or after you move and explore, you can take an action, but not during. So here I'm touching, now in this game you're always just moving on the lines of the tiles. You're never moving to or through the tiles. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that I intersect. If I wanted to, I could just use my action. Let's say, see a fish there, I could just say, I'm going to go fishing, and you would just literally get a food and put it in your backpack. But of course, I have no room in my backpack because it starts full. If I wanted to, I could turn in one of those food and get 2 whiskey, or I could just take 1 whiskey, as I mentioned. Here, I could turn in a food or a timber to get what this secret thing is. I don't know what this is. Or here, I could build a mine, which in case, yeah, let's do that. In this case, I would take a mine symbol. I would put it there. I would also put my little claim marker on there. That means if somebody else uses that mine, they have to give me something from their backpack and leave it on there, and I can go back there and get it for free later. This also, now that the mine's there in next turns, I'd be able to kind of use resources to dig for that mine gold. But the mine is sort of expensive. It costs 1 tool, 1 food, and a timber to build the mine, so I would spend that back to the supply. At this point, it would be the next player's turn, and they would kind of go through the same motions that I did. Let's fast forward a bit. So the game has progressed along quite a bit now. We have players in different areas. We've built up sort of the different tiles. We see the river starting to go through. Now let's go through. There's a lot of different actions you could take on your turn. Again, you only get 1 of these per turn, before or after your movement. But there's a lot of different things you can do depending on where you're at. So let's talk about some of these. Well, fishing. We talked about fishing earlier. You could just say, hey, I'm going to fish, and you take a food. However, if you have a fishing rod as one of your gears on your player board, in this case, you would get 2 fish because there's 1 and 2. If there was a a fishing trap there, you would get, again, 2. If you had a fishing trap there and a rod and a fish, you'd get 3 food. Now these traps here are something that you would build, and when you build this, anybody can use it, essentially, not just you. And of course, just like the mine that I built earlier, anytime you build something like this, you get an experience point. If you build something else when you already have an experience point, that's when you get to look at those any random 3 skills and get another special ability. Okay, wood. This person, he's next to the forest. He could chop this down for an action and get one timber to put into his backpack on his board. If he had an axe on his player board, he would be able to get 2 wood. If someone had built a sawmill there earlier, whoever's here would get 2. If a sawmill's there and you have an axe, you're getting 3 wood. And again, the sawmill is something that you would build for an action that would take your whole action turn. But once it's built, anybody can use it. There's spots where you can hunt. This guy here wants to hunt an animal for his only action. He would take this die and he would roll it. If it is a hit, there's 2 spots on the dice that's hit, he automatically would take this animal and it would be worth 3 food. Not only would he be able to add those 3 food to his backpack, but he also takes the fur from this, puts it face down, and this is worth 1 gold for both trading and at the end of the game. If the die was a rifle, you miss unless you have a rifle as part of your gear. If you get a miss, you take a miss token and you hold it. If next time you roll for an animal and you roll a miss and you have a miss, it's an automatic hit and you would kill it just like I showed you before. This is essentially a trap. So if there is essentially a trap that you could build, and again, this would be an action on its own, somebody would have had to have built a trap here for their action on an earlier turn. But if you come to one and there's already there, or you wait till your next turn and you have the trap there and you rolled this, you'd get it. And if you rolled this, if you have a rifle or a trap, you would have killed it. And that's hunting for food. Now, if I was here, I could search, spend a food or a timber, and I could take this, and this is, oh, dynamite. This would go to my gear, and then if I go and build a mine, I'm able to get some mine gold. Instead of taking 1, you get to take 2 of those gold. Instead of that action, or on a next turn, since this player's on a tile that has river gold, which is the green ones, he could spend a food and just get this river gold. He wouldn't show anybody this. River gold is always either 2 or 3, and this would go in the player's gold bag face down so nobody knows how much is there. So let's say it's red player's turn, and he wants to get this river gold. River gold can only be got if it's on a place with water, or somebody flumes water to it. And for an action on your turn, you can build a flume there, essentially spending a wood, and you can build this flume. Now this has water. Now in a subsequent turn, you can then spend your food to get the river gold. But since you've built this, again, you get an experience point, but because you've built this, somebody else might be able to run over here next time and get a gold and kind of start to steal gold from where you wanted. Now when you're moving, if you're on a place that is not near a land tile, you can't be on the same spot as somebody. But since this tile is around river, you can do that. Now moving, anytime you move that's not touching a river tile, you can only move 1. But when you're on the river tile, you can move 2 as long as you don't cross the river, of course assuming you don't have a boat or a special ability that allows you to do so. Now this blue person could actually move here and spend 2 timber to build a bridge, and again he'd get an experience point because he built something, and then next turn he could be able to cross the bridge without having a boat or a special ability or things like that. And earlier we built this mine. If I'm here, I could essentially spend a food and a timber to get a mine gold, and mine gold is always 5 or 6, and then we would do the same thing, put it face down in our gold bag. These exclamation points here, so we go there and we put a land tile, we'd put a hunter there, an animal. Let's say I want to take an action to take one of those exclamation markers there. And if he turns in 1 food or 1 timber, you can get one of these, and it's a treasure marker. Let me show you how these work. Let's say I'm the red player, and I'm in the conjunction of 2 river tiles, a forest, and a tundra. If I had 4 of these markers in my sort of face down, and I had a blue one, a forest, another blue one, and a tundra, if I had all ones that were around me, and I was able to play them like that, I would essentially get, there's 4 of them placed, I would get 3 mine gold for doing that, which is a lot, because it's probably gonna be at least 15 gold there. So I'd be able to take 3 of these and put them in my gold, and that's because you've used the treasure clues to find gold where nobody knew where it was. If somebody comes back to the starting spot, they can go to the general store and buy or sell items. Now, depending on the amount of players, will tell you how many of each of these are there. But for example, on the left side, if you want to buy tools or whiskey, it's 1. a canoe or a horse or such, it's 3, and so on and so forth. And you never get change back, so you want to try to pay with exact change. On the right is if you have those things, essentially you're selling it back for 1 less nugget than you cost to get those things. Now the horse allows you to move 2 on dry land instead of 3, for example, lets you move first there. The same with the canoe, allows you to go across the river, and it also allows you to move 3 on the river instead of 2. The cart allows you to put extra things in your gear. So you could put the cart there, and now you can actually fill this spot up now with that as well. And we talked about the rifle, the axe, and the fish rod getting more food. This allows you to get 2 river gold instead of 1. This allows you to get 2 mine gold instead of 1, and we talked about the treasure clues. Those are different things you get at the general store. Now the game ends in 1 or 2 ways. One is if somebody gets back here and they have at least 10 tokens in their gold bag, they then tell everybody how much gold they have. If anybody else has more, they have to flip up and show them that they have at least as much as that person, and the game continues. If this person that went back had at least 10 of any type of gold in their bag, if they had the most, they win and the game ends there. If not, it keeps going. The other way it ends is either if the last river tiles put out, then this will then cap it, or if the last land tiles comes out, this will cap it. And then in addition to that, the ice block goes on here, and then at the end of every turn, this is rolled. If it's a snowflake, it moves 1. If it's a 2 snowflakes, it moves 2 towards the end. If it's a sun, it moves 1 back. Once this gets all the way back to the starting line, that's the end of the game immediately, and count up the gold. Whoever has the most is the winner. By the way, the player aid that I am about to reference in my final thoughts section looks like this. It's on the Board Game Geek forums, under the Lost Valley, the Yukon Gold Rush version, and it really helps with seeing the inventory items, what they are, how much they cost, where they go, whether it's in the backpack, the cart, or in the gear, and then all the different actions you can take, what it costs, and what you get. And it's really, this is almost essential to play the game. All right, well, there's Lost Valley. So what do I think? Well, typically I do like tile laying games, for example, like Carcassonne and things like that. Of course, this is nothing like Carcassonne, but I always like the fact of pulling out a tile, seeing what it is, and trying to place it somewhere. So I like that aspect of it. There's a lot of things I did like about the game. So, you know, the aspect of exploration, that was probably my favorite aspect. Trying to figure out, there's a lot of things you could do. There's a lot of different strategies you can take. Do I want to spend time going and getting gold and then going to turn that gold into for something like a horse or a canoe that will help me move faster than everybody else? Or should I turn in for an axe or a fishing rod which will allow me to get twice as much food, or a dynamite that will let me get twice as much gold? There's a lot of different ways that you can go in this game. I also like the fact that when you're exploring and such, when other people build things, you can sort of follow them around and use what they're building. Let them take the action and you use it. So there is a lot of things to like about this game, of different areas that you could go. I found it being sort of like a mini engine building system, where once you get into a certain part of, you know, the exploration, you kind of see these puzzles and you're putting them together. Oh, okay, this is close. I could just do one action, get a food here, get a timber there, go to the mine, get a gold. Let's do that 2 or 3 times, and then we built that engine and you're sort of going. Maybe you've bought things to help you build that engine. So there were a lot of things that I did like about the game. It was quite enjoyable. However, there was a few things that I had problems with the game. Number one, this is kind of an odd game where it's a very simple game. If you sit down with a bunch of people that know how to play this game, it's pretty simple. You're moving, you're doing an action. The turns, blah, 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 blah. They go really fast. But if you're trying to learn this game and nobody at the table knows how to do it and you're trying to learn it from the rules, it's kind of a bear. For as simple as a game as it actually is, this is probably one of the hardest games to learn and teach from the rules for the length and the simplicity of the game that I've ever seen. But this can be combated. Now, I wish the publisher would have put player aids in this game. I don't know why they didn't, but there's a good one on Board Game Geek. I just showed it to you just previous to this at the end of the overview video. It is amazing, and that should have been in the game, because in a game where you can take somewhere around 17 different actions on your turn, granted, you can't take all of them because of where you're situated. Some of those actions can only be taken at some certain spots. But it's hard to wrap your mind around what are the different things I possibly could do and what did those cost. Without having a sheet in front of you, there's no way you're going to remember it. So if you're trying to learn from the rules, just know that you're going to struggle unless you get that player aid that I showed. If you get that, it'll make things a million times easier, and the learning curve won't be as steep, and you'll be able to enjoy the game, which is enjoyable, a lot quicker. The other problem I have with the game is, for a game that's 45 minutes long, it takes 15 minutes to set it up. The game has a gazillion bits. And sure, you may not need to pour out all of them, and this game might do well if you have one of those tackle boxes that you put the different parts in. But even with that, and you keep them all separated, a lot of them have to be face down. So either on the front end where you're setting up, or in the back end when you're putting things back, you're going to spend the time sooner or later, one way or another. So it takes long to set up. There's tons of bits. It's really hard to kind of get into it at the beginning, and it's a little hard to teach new players because, again, there's so many things you can do. But it's weird because even with that, I'm saying it's kind of complex with a little bit of learning curve, but once you understand the game, it goes so fast and it is really simple. I don't know how to explain it. It's just odd. So if you like exploration games, oh, by the way, they did a lot of great things in streamlining the game. I really like that you can use the triangle tiles. Anytime it's not touching a triangle tile, it gets those cool, interesting tiles out quicker. Anyway, I really like the game, but the negatives kind of bring it down a few notches for me. And for a game that takes that much to set up, that is only 45 minutes long, I'm not sure how much it will hit the table. But once it's up and set up, if I can talk somebody else into setting it up, sure, I'll sit down and play it and I'll enjoy it. Yukon Gold Rush, Lost Valley, the Yukon Gold Rush.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.